Hello and welcome to part 3 of Big Solar. I'm Josh Taylor, a Senior Associate in Osborne Clarke's Planning and Environment team. And this time on Big Solar, we have a special guest, Sam Cranston, who is a Director of Energy Infrastructure at Copper Consultancy. So Sam is an experienced comms and engagement consultant specialising in planning and infrastructure, and he's currently leading across an expanding portfolio of DCO projects, including solar, offshore wind, hydrogen, and electricity transmission, where he provides strategic comms advice on the NSIP process. And I think I'm right in saying Copper are currently supporting on a range of NSIP and TCPA solar scale projects across the UK. So, hi Sam, great to have you here, and thanks for joining us.
Josh, no, thank you for having me.
Good. So, before we get into kind of talking about communities and consultation, I'll just kind of set a bit of context as to where we are. So, we're filming this a couple of days after the long-awaited energy security strategy. And whilst there's a lot to be said about the energy security strategy, and perhaps there's still quite a lot left to be said, including on how the general targets will translate into policy and legislation. But I suppose leaving that to one side for now, there are, of course, positives coming out of it around the scale of ambition, including for solar, with an ambition for a 5-fold increase in capacity by 2035, which equates to about 70 gigawatts of generation, which is pretty epic. So I suppose with that in mind, Sam, talk to me about how these projects, these large scale projects, are perceived from a local perspective. And I suppose what are the main areas of concern that you tend to see from local communities when faced with these projects, and particularly solar?
In terms of the main areas of concern from local communities regarding solar, I think there's probably three areas that we're seeing both on the ground from projects we're working on, but also reflected in some of our public attitudes to solar that we've done, and we've published a report in that recently with Solar Energy UK. So I think the three areas are one, loss of agricultural land, and that concern is growing even more since the invasion of Ukraine and other factors that are contributing to higher food prices. I think the second is around visual impact of large-scale solar, and in some areas it's the cumulative impact of multiple projects in one area. And the third, probably around sort of the impact to wildlife in sort of local areas themselves.
Interesting. Yeah, thanks, Sam. And how do you tend to overcome these issues? I mean, is there a one-size-fits-all approach, or is it very much dependent on the communities and the specific feedback you get from consultation?
I think engaging early with communities and stakeholders is critical. I think there are answers to all of the concerns that people have, and often they're quite simple. Solar Energy UK recently published a myth-busting report which helpfully answers many of the key questions and concerns raised about solar projects, covering everything from the UK sunny enough for big solar. The answer is yes. The questions on impacts of food security, which report sets out how the industry is working closely with farmers to reduce energy costs and improve sustainability of their operations, as well as sort of other topics around land use and public consultation and more. But I think, as you said in the question there, each community will be different and will have different concerns, needs, and aspirations on individual projects. So it's important that developers get to know their neighbours and wider stakeholders when planning a project to take them on that journey to deliver a project which maximises the benefits and opportunities.
Yeah, interesting. Thanks, Sam. And I suppose it comes back to that early engagement piece by the sounds of it. And so I suppose lessons learned generally, I mean, based on your current projects or your previous projects, are there valuable lessons learned or pitfalls to avoid in promoting these projects?
Yeah, definitely. And I think building on what we've just discussed there, early and meaningful engagement is vital to avoiding potential pitfalls and risks to promoting projects. We know from our own experience and wider research that the public support infrastructure projects if they can see how they would individually benefit from them. So ensuring there is a clear understanding around the need for projects and taking the public on the journey through the planning process is critical to timely delivery. And think solar has huge benefits to offer and should do more to shout about them, not only providing an efficient and effective way to boost the UK's energy security and help meet our net zero targets, but also for biodiversity gain, investment in supply chains, local economies and jobs. At Copper, we're working with a number of developers on an approach which brings communities and stakeholders together from the outset to help shape proposals and build advocates along the way. And with each project that goes through the planning system, we'll collectively learn more lessons, I'm sure.
And on that positive note, I suppose to finish, really, is the future bright, to continue the cliche? And I suppose, do you have any reflections on where we're heading in the industry?
Yeah, I think the future is definitely bright, but I do think this is a really important and critical time for the industry. As you mentioned at the top, the government set out an ambitious target to increase solar fivefold up to 70 gigawatt by 2035, and we know that the industry has the appetite to push towards that target. There are, of course, challenges to hitting that, not least grid capacity and ensuring that the planning regime enables that level of growth. But what is evident from our own research, national polling, is that public support for UK solar is strong, and we're working with developers and industry bodies to support that future growth in large-scale solar. So I think, yeah, definitely bright, exciting times ahead, and certainly lots to do.
Yeah, agreed. Well, thanks, Sam. I mean, they're really great insights, a great snapshot into what you do. And I think, as we've said previously on these blogs, there's a kind of delicate balance between speed and fairness, especially with all these new energy infrastructure projects coming forward. And I suppose it's more important than ever to get the procedure right and to bring those communities along with you. So it's been great to shed some light on that, to pardon the pun. So thanks again, Sam. Thanks for your time, and good luck with all your projects.